After accidentally using my boyfriend's shampoo, my previously dry and frizzy hair suddenly became unusually soft and smooth, each strand glistening under the lights like in a high-end shampoo commercial. I took a picture of the label and searched online, but strangely, neither major e-commerce sites nor imported cosmetics stores sold it. That shampoo seemed like an item only found in the world of the rich, something I'd never even touched. Holding my phone, I half-jokingly looked at Feng Shuo, who was sitting on the sofa wearing an old, faded white t-shirt. "Your shampoo isn't a custom order, is it? Or are you a rich kid pretending to be poor to test me?" I only intended to tease him a little. Unexpectedly, Feng Shuo actually looked up, his eyes strangely calm, and nodded. I chuckled, thinking he was playing along with my act. The man who daily squeezed onto the subway with me and then painstakingly cooked dinner in this cramped, rented house. How could he possibly be associated with the word wealthy family? So I continued jokingly. "Let me say this first. I'm greedy, lustful, and pragmatic. If you really have money and still test me like that, I'll marry you right away." But Feng Shuo didn't laugh. He subtly clicked his tongue, the corners of his lips curving into a sarcastic smile. "Someone like you wants to marry into a wealthy family?" That was like a bucket of cold water thrown in my face. Before I could react, his phone suddenly rang with loud laughter. "Brother Shuo, give up. She knows you have money and wants to marry you immediately. Hurry up and get married. 88,000 yuan as a dowry probably won't even buy a handbag for Sister Chi Meng." "That's really cheap." The chaotic laughter continued incessantly. Every word felt like a knife cutting into my ears. And the name, Chi Meng, that just appeared sent a chill down my spine. That was the name that had once been the nightmare of my youth. Feng Shuo leaned back in his chair, his voice nonchalant. "All right, stop making a fuss. Am I the kind of person who goes back on my word? Prepare the wedding gift money." Immediately afterward, a familiar female voice, so familiar it made me tremble, came from the other end of the line. "Feng Shuo, are you crazy? You said you were just joking with her for fun. Do you really want to marry her?" The atmosphere in the room froze. I stood motionless in the small kitchen, barely more than 10 square meters, my hands and feet icy cold. Feng Shuo remained eerily calm. He bowed his head, wiping away the tears that were involuntarily falling down my face. His movements were as gentle as usual, but his words were cold and heartless. "That's right. If I don't marry her, should I marry you?" He paused, then let out a sarcastic laugh. "Miss Chi, do you really think I'm your pet dog? That I have to do whatever you tell me to do?" The phone was abruptly hung up. Only the prolonged, jarring beeping sound remained. Feng Shuo stared at the screen for a long time before finally looking up, his lips returning to their familiar, lazy expression. "Why are you crying? Are you so happy knowing I have money?" Without waiting for my answer, he stood up and went into the kitchen. "Want some fried rice with eggs? I'll make it right away." He put on an apron, skillfully cracked the eggs, chopped the onions, and turned on the stove. The smell of hot oil quickly filled the small room. Everything was eerily normal, as if those words had never existed. I stood behind him, watching his back. This man had been by my side for 5 years. In those 5 years, he remembered my period even better than I did. On nights when I was in excruciating pain, he stayed awake, holding me close, rubbing my stomach, and preparing warm water. He used to hand-wash my underwear, and he once ran more than 10 kilometers in the rain just to buy a box of my favorite cookies. I once thought I'd found someone who loved me more than life itself. But at this moment, I feel a chill that pierces my heart. I took a deep breath, my voice hoarse. "Aren't you tired?" Feng Shuo paused for a second. The only sound in the room was the irritating roar of the exhaust fan. I walked over, turned it off, and pulled his hand forcefully, making him look directly at me. "For the past 5 years, haven't you gotten tired of acting?" His eyes flickered slightly but quickly averted. "I've already admitted it. What more do you want me to explain?" He paused for a few seconds before continuing, his voice light. "Chi Meng is just a childhood friend. Don't overthink it." He deliberately avoided the main point. He didn't mention how they used me as a plaything. Nor did he mention Chi Meng's helping you vent your anger remark. I looked at him, my eyes stinging with pain. Over 1,800 days and nights. I truly loved him like that. I used to think that being poor wouldn't matter. Not having a house or a car wouldn't matter. We could work together, save every penny, and eventually have a small home of our own. And now he tells me, it was all just a charade, staged to entertain others. I really don't understand. Is an ordinary, insignificant person like me really worth them wasting so much effort on? I even kept Feng Shuo by my side for 5 years just to play the role of the perfect boyfriend. When he held me in the middle of a night, apologizing for not having enough money to give me a better life, did he ever laugh inwardly? When he bent down to help me put on my socks, blow dry my hair, did he feel disgusted? I looked at him for a long time, then let out a hoarse laugh. That was a really good performance. Feng Shuo slammed the bowl down on the table. So what do you want? I clenched my fists so tightly that blood came out. No more marriage. The atmosphere immediately became tense. Feng Shuo let out a cold laugh. Is it that bad? Didn't you always want to marry me? It's true you deceived me, but wasn't the result still good? You can give me a dowry of 880,000, and I can even buy the car I want. What are you still so worried about? I looked at him, feeling as if my heart was being torn into pieces. This isn't about money. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng Shuo slammed the bowl against the wall. Clang! Shards of porcelain scattered everywhere. A small piece cut my arm, and blood immediately flowed down. When we were poor, you blamed me for not having money. Now that we have money, you want to talk about feelings? He snarled each word, his eyes turning uncontrollably red. Undine, are you sick? I watched the red blood trickle down her arm, drop by drop. Then I slowly pulled up her sleeve. Old and new scars overlapped under the cold white light. Yes, I said softly. I'm sick. It's a mental illness. Tears welled up and fell. Are you satisfied now? Feng Shuo stood there speechless. His gaze lingered on the winding scars on my wrists for so long that his breath caught in his throat. His face, previously filled with anger, suddenly turned pale. His fingertips trembled as if wanting to touch me, but he didn't dare. I let out a hoarse laugh. Why should I marry you? My voice was so soft it almost faded into the air. Why should I live with someone who has treated me like a plaything with someone else? Feng Shuo's lips moved several times, but no sound came out. Just then, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was noisy and chaotic. Brother Shuo, Sister Chi Meng is drunk and insists on seeing you. What does that have to do with me? Feng Shuo frowned, bending down to rummage through the first aid kit to treat my wounds. She said if you don't come today, she'll find someone else to sleep with. His movements froze. The iodine bottle in his hand fell to the floor, the brown liquid spilling onto the cold tiles. Feng Shuo gripped the phone so tightly that the veins in his hand bulged. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions, as if he were struggling with something intensely. Finally, he stood up. Treat your wound yourself first, his voice hoarse. I'll be right back. I didn't answer. I just stood silently by the window, watching him rush downstairs. As he passed the stairs, he impatiently kicked the electric scooter blocking his way. The small white scooter tilted and fell onto the concrete floor. The rearview mirror shattered. I stood there, frozen, staring at it. It was the scooter he bought for me in our second year of dating. Back then, we were both poor. He worked late into the night to save enough money to buy it for me. On the day we received the car, I was so happy that I dragged him around the apartment complex several times, laughing until my stomach hurt. I even hugged him and said, "When we have money, we'll buy a car, okay?" He smiled and patted my head. "Okay, I'll definitely let you ride in a BMW." Thinking back now, it's funny. The love I once thought was real turned out to be like that electric car. It looked intact, but with just one kick, it all shattered. I bowed my head and bandaged my own wounds. Bright red blood seeped through the bandage, mixing with the hot tears that fell in drops. My head was aching with chaos. Sometimes Jimeng's words echoed in my mind. It was just to help you vent your anger. Other times, countless nights I woke up crying from nightmares flashed before my eyes. At those times, Feng Shuo always held me tightly, his voice so gentle it made me want to drown in it. Anding, what would I do if you died? What do you expect me, your lover, to do? He once held me tightly. He once cried for me. He once patiently listened to me recount the days of being bullied in high school. I told him how he spread vile rumors about me, how I was falsely accused of stealing money, how those people poured cold water over my head in the middle of winter, causing me such severe menstrual cramps that I had to take a year off from school. I cried until I couldn't breathe in his arms, and he held me, gently patting my back from night until morning. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Thinking back now, was he really heartbroken for me, or was he just enjoying Chimeng's victory with her? That thought made my stomach turn violently. I threw up in front of the toilet until I felt dizzy. Just then, the computer screen on the desk lit up. The WeChat icon blinked continuously. Feng Shuo forgot to log out. I stared at the screen for a long time. Finally, trembling, I stepped forward. The group chat appeared right before my eyes. The group creator was Chimeng. I scrolled up the chat history little by little. The more I read, the colder my whole body became. It turns out that Feng Shuo's first approach to me in college wasn't love at first sight. It was because Chimeng said, "Does she even deserve to be in the same school as you? A Shuo, I hate her so much. Can you just chase after her and dump her when you're tired of her?" And Feng Shuo only replied, "You refused to be my girlfriend, and now you're pushing me to someone else. You're so cruel." I continued scrolling. Every time I opened up a little more to Feng Shuo, the group cheered as if they'd won a bet. When I agreed to hold his hand, they congratulated me. When I kissed him for the first time, the whole group spammed fireworks. Someone even brazenly asked, "When did you get her first time?" My hands were ice cold. I continued watching. There was a video of Feng Shuo filming me receiving my electric scooter. I smiled, my eyes crinkling, hugging the scooter like a treasure. In the group chat, the others commented, "Oh my God, that cheap car makes them so happy, like they won the lottery." Typical poor people. So funny. Tears dripped onto the keyboard. I angrily wiped them away and scrolled down again. Later, Feng Shuo became less talkative in the group, but the others never stopped. Until recently, they started discussing how to humiliate me the most before ending this game. My heart ached so much, it almost stopped beating. Then, I saw the last video. In the video, Chimeng was so drunk she could barely stand. Feng Shuo bent down and picked her up. Whistles and cheers filled the room. "Kiss her, Shuo! Take her to the room!" Feng Shuo didn't refuse. He just kicked the door open and carried Chimeng inside. The video ended there. I sat motionless in front of the screen. It felt like something inside me had completely collapsed. I slowly typed each word into the group chat. "Why don't you filthy beasts all just die?" As soon as the message was sent, my WeChat account was immediately logged out. I burst out laughing. Laughing until tears streamed down my face. It turned out that the rain that year never stopped. It was just that Feng Shuo had temporarily sheltered me with an umbrella, making me naively think that the sun had risen. The phone rang incessantly, like a madman. The screen lit up again and again with the familiar name that used to bring me peace of mind just by seeing it. Feng Shuo. Now it made me feel nauseous and breathless. I stared at the vibrating call on the screen for a long time before finally answering. The other end was very quiet. So quiet that I could clearly hear his heavy breathing. After a long while, Feng Shuo finally spoke in a hoarse voice. "You saw everything?" "Yes." My throat was sore. "Wait for me to come back," he spoke quickly, as if trying to hold on to something he was about to lose. I'll explain it to you. I sat down on the cold floor, my back against the edge of the bed, my eyes slowly scanning the small apartment. The cream-colored curtains were the ones I had chosen. The strawberry-shaped dinnerware set was something he secretly bought for my birthday last year. On the balcony hangs the wind chime we bought together at the night market. Every time the wind blows, it makes a very faint tinkling sound. This place used to be my home. It was where I thought I would live my whole life with that man. I closed my eyes. The pain in my chest seemed to have reached its limit, and instead, I felt numb. You don't need to explain, I said softly, and you don't need to come back. The other end of the line was silent. Feng Shuo! I gripped the phone tightly. I don't want to play your games anymore. Let me go. You can't provoke me. Can't you at least escape? My voice trembled at the last sentence. The other end of the phone was filled with the screeching sound of screeching brakes, followed by his panicked voice. Andin! I hung up. Then I decisively removed the SIM card and threw it in the trash. The room was very quiet. So quiet that the only sounds were the suitcase being pulled open and the rustling of clothes. I didn't bring much. My clothes were bought with my own money. A few old books, photos with my parents. As for the things Feng Shuo gave me, I left them all behind. When I pulled out the last drawer, a property certificate accidentally fell at my feet. I bent down to pick it up. The owner's name was clearly visible under the light. Feng Shuo! I stood there speechless. So this apartment was originally his. I had once naively felt lucky to have found a place that was both cheap and close to the company. It turned out everything had been prearranged. I burst out laughing. The laughter echoed in the empty room, sounding both harsh and despairing. Outside the window, the cold moonlight cast a silvery white light on the ground. I pulled my suitcase and left. The clatter of the wheels echoed in the hallway of the old apartment building. Each step felt heavy as if weighed down by stones. But before I'd gone far, the screech of brakes echoed from behind. A black sports car stopped right in front of me. The car door swung open. Feng Shuo stepped out. He was still wearing the same clothes he'd worn when he left, his hair disheveled by the wind, his breathing ragged as if he'd been running for a long time. Where are you going? He lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. The force was so strong it made my skin ache. I turned my face away, avoiding the faint red lipstick stain on his collar. His voice was so cold it felt unfamiliar even to me. Let go. Come home with me. Feng Shuo tightened his grip. You're so grown up, yet you're still playing the runaway game? Are you a child? I laughed. Does a home even exist between you and me? That statement made his expression harden. I pulled my suitcase, intending to walk around him, but he blocked my way again. Anding, his voice grew impatient. Can you be a little more rational? How many years has the conflict between you and Chi Meng been going on? How long do you intend to keep bringing it up? People should look forward. You know best how I've treated you all this time. Leave me. He stared at me, each word seemingly squeezed out from between his teeth. Where else will you find someone who treats you this well? I looked up at him. This man was still as handsome as ever. Sharp features, deep eyes, a high, straight nose. He was the kind of person who could easily attract attention even in a crowd. Before, just a smile from him would make my heart flutter and keep me awake all night. But now, I only felt a sense of unfamiliarity, a terrifyingly unfamiliarity. Dragging it back and forth, I softly repeated his words, then chuckled. Of course, it's because of the pain that kept me awake for years, and you call it just a contradiction. Feng Shuo pursed his lips. I had no strength left to argue. My head ached as if it would split open. The house key is under the doormat, I said hoarsely. I didn't take any of the things you bought for me. I lowered my head and looked at the clothes I was wearing. Except for this outfit. It's torn. How much? I'll pay you back. Feng Shuo suddenly let out a cold laugh. You really think the things I buy for you are cheap? My clothes are all custom made. What will you use to pay me back? His voice grew deeper and deeper. With your monthly salary of several thousand? Or with your pathetic self-respect? The atmosphere suddenly became eerily silent. I looked at him for a few seconds. Then I slowly raised my hand and unbuttoned my shirt. One button, two buttons. The biting night wind immediately chilled my skin. Feng Shuo's expression changed. "On ding!" He almost lunged forward, frantically taking off his coat and covering me with it. "Are you crazy?" He forcefully pulled me into the car. The car door slammed shut. The sports car sped through the night like a black arrow cutting through the wind. I silently watched the lights flash past the window until the car stopped in front of a luxurious villa, one I had only ever seen on television. The iron gate slowly opened. A fountain in the courtyard reflected the glittering lights. Exquisitely trimmed flower beds lined both sides of the path. Feng Shuo got out of the car and walked around to open the door for me. "Get out." His voice was hoarse. "You're staying here tonight." I almost instinctively recoiled. My body trembled uncontrollably. Old, gloomy memories like mud instantly dragged me back to my darkest high school years. Back then, Chi Meng had stood before me like this, looking down at me with contempt, then splashing cold water on me amidst the laughter of the crowd. I instinctively closed my eyes, but the imagined pain didn't come. Feng Shuo had grabbed Chi Meng's wrist, holding her in midair. His expression was extremely grim. "Enough!" "Enough of what?" Chi Meng was almost insane. "Do you know what she just did online? And you still brought her here?" Her eyes swept around the room, then immediately turned red with anger. "This is my room!" "I told you this room was prepared only for you." Feng Shuo didn't answer. He just silently stood in front of me. At that moment, looking at his back standing between me and Chi Meng, I suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of amusement. One was the bully who tormented me throughout my youth. The other was the one who deceived me for 5 years. And yet, now they were standing before me, acting out a scene of love, hate, and revenge. How ridiculous. "Feng Shuo," Chi Meng choked out, her eyes reddening as she looked at him. "Do you really love her? From childhood to adulthood, I've never treated you like this for anyone. Have you forgotten? I liked you first. I've been with you longer than her. You once said you would always protect me." Feng Shuo lowered his eyes. The soft yellow light shone on his face, making the weariness in his eyes more apparent than ever. After a long time, he finally spoke in a low voice. "From the moment you pushed me towards someone else, you no longer have the right to ask this question." The atmosphere instantly fell into a deathly silence. Chi Meng was stunned. Then, she burst into hysterical laughter. "Fine, fine! Feng Shuo, you really do love this slut." She pointed directly at my face, her voice sharp and piercing. "On ding, you're so smug, aren't you? Since you were little, you've liked stealing from me. I hate your feigned pitifulness the most." I sat on the ground, my head aching so much I could barely hear. My ears were ringing. My whole body was burning hot. The sounds of the argument in front of me gradually became distorted and chaotic. In my daze, I heard Chi Meng shout, "Feng Shuo, you brought her into my room just to make me jealous, didn't you?" "I couldn't possibly like her." I chuckled softly, laughing until tears streamed down my face. That's right. What right did I have to think Feng Shuo truly loved me? From the beginning, he was a deceiver. It was my foolishness to believe in something called salvation. My consciousness gradually sank, as if falling into a bottomless abyss. When I woke up again, the familiar smell of disinfectant immediately assaulted my nostrils. The ceiling was stark white. The machines beeped steadily. I was in the hospital. Feng Shuo sat by my bedside. In just one night, he looked utterly haggard. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights, and his chin was covered in unshaven stubble. But when he saw me open my eyes, his gaze instantly lit up. "Ding ding!" His voice trembled noticeably. He bent down and took my hand, his palm icy cold. You're pregnant." I froze. Feng Shuo almost burst out laughing with joy. He opened his phone, his voice rapid and chaotic. I checked the dates. There are a few auspicious days next month. Shall we have a wedding? You don't like anything too extravagant, do you? Then let's have something simple and natural that you like. I'll have a wedding dress custom made for you. After the wedding, I'll take you to the Maldives or Bali. He talked a lot, talking about the future, talking about the baby, talking about the house that would be filled with the magnolia flowers I love. It was as if everything that had happened had never existed, as if we were truly just an ordinary couple about to get married. I silently looked at him. Then I slowly opened my phone. A message from HR appeared on the screen. Due to senior management personnel changes, the company has decided to terminate your contract. I laughed. I didn't need to think to know who did it. Besides Feng Shuo, it could only be Qi Meng. 5 years. I worked at that company for 5 years. From an intern who was scolded by her superiors until she cried in the restroom, I climbed step by step to my current position. And yet, with just one sentence from them, everything vanished. My phone showed a new trending search notification. Qi Meng's name was at the top of the list. I clicked on it. In the video, she was crying, her eyes red and swollen, her voice choked with emotion as she recounted her broken childhood sweetheart relationship. She said Feng Shuo loved her since childhood. Every year on her birthday, he would book an entire fireworks display for her. She said he had given her countless pieces of jewelry, handbags, and luxury gifts. And me? She portrayed me as a scheming third party who interfered and ruined their relationship. In the comments below, countless people cursed me. May the mistress die. A lowlife who likes to climb the social ladder. Get his information. My hands trembled. My head buzzed like 1,000 bees. Feng Shuo noticed my expression was off and immediately stepped forward. Ding ding. I didn't look at him. I just slowly opened the screenshot album of that group chat. Then, one by one, I posted them online, including the video of them mocking me, including Qi Meng's message asking Feng Shuo to tease me, including everything. Little by little, I watched the comments skyrocket under my post. Some people were suspicious. Some people cursed me for making things up. But more and more people started to side with me, until my comment suddenly disappeared. It was deleted. Feng Shuo returned after finishing a phone call. His expression was extremely grim. "Anding," he said hoarsely, "you're too emotional. Qi Meng is a blogger. It's normal for her to exaggerate a little. We'll still see each other in the future. Don't make things so awkward." I slowly raised my head and looked at him. In that moment, my heart completely froze. Even the pain disappeared. Only emptiness remained. After a long time, Feng Shuo spoke again in a low voice. "Go apologize to Qi Meng. Let's put an end to everything." I looked at him for a long time. Then I slightly curved my lips. "Okay." Feng Shuo clearly breathed a sigh of relief. He thought I had finally compromised. Little did he know. What had just died inside me was my last remaining love for him. That evening, Feng Shuo personally drove me to the hotel where Qi Meng was waiting. Throughout the journey, he held my hand tightly, as if afraid I might change my mind. His palm was still warm, but I felt a bone-chilling cold. The car stopped in front of one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The dazzling crystal chandeliers reflected off the polished marble floor. The attendants bowed and opened the car door for us, their respectful attitude reminding me of the time we used to jostle on the subway together every morning. Back then, he wore an old t-shirt and faded sneakers, standing in front of me amidst the throng so I wouldn't be pushed around. I even felt heartbroken thinking how hard he was working. Now, thinking back, I realize how foolish and pathetic I was. Feng Shuo led me into a private room on the top floor. As soon as the door opened, the laughter and chatter inside immediately ceased. The familiar faces in that group chat all turned to look at me. Some had once mocked my electric scooter. Some had bet on when Feng Shuo would sleep with me. Some had called me a poor, easily deceived girl. They were still elegantly dressed, raising glasses of red wine, sitting in a luxurious room filled with soothing music. Only I was the outcast. Feng Shuo pulled a chair for me and whispered, "Ding ding, let's just talk things out." I didn't reply. His gaze slowly settled on Meng. She sat in the center, exquisitely made up, wearing an elegant white dress, still looking as noble as a princess pampered since childhood. Seeing me, the corners of her lips curled slightly, smug, contemptuous, and full of malice. "So you're here." Meng tilted her head and looked at me. "Then let's begin." "I'm waiting for your apology." A few small laughs immediately echoed in the room, just like in high school. That day, she also made me stand in front of the class and apologize like this. Apologize for daring to be better than her. Apologize for the class president liking me. Apologize for existing. I looked at Meng for a long time, and I slowly picked up the glass of juice on the table and stood up. Feng Shuo probably realized something was wrong. His hand unconsciously tightened its grip on my wrist. "Anding!" I pushed his hand away. I walked step by step towards Meng. In the room so quiet that I could hear the sound of my heels clicking on the floor, I looked straight into her eyes and smiled. "I'm sorry. I came to apologize to a beast like you." With those words, I threw the glass of juice straight at Meng's face. Crash! The glass shattered on the floor. The golden orange juice streamed down her hair and expensive makeup. The whole room fell silent. Meng shrieked, "Anding! Are you crazy?" I laughed again, a laugh that even I found unfamiliar. I grabbed the bottle of wine on the table and poured it over her head. The red wine flowed down her face and onto her white dress like blood. "I'm sorry for being prettier than you. I'm sorry for having better grades than you. I'm sorry for others liking me and not you. I'm sorry for you ruining my life." Meng's scream echoed through the room. Someone rushed forward to restrain me. I snatched the bottle and slammed it down on the table. Clang! Shattered shards of glass instantly appeared in my hand. I held the broken neck of the bottle and pointed it at the people in front of me. "Anyone who dares to come closer, try me. At worst, we'll all die together." No one dared to move. Perhaps my gaze was too terrifying at that moment. My hair was disheveled, my eyes were bloodshot. Blood dripped from the glass shards that cut her palm. She looked like a complete madwoman. I grabbed Meng's hair and yanked her forcefully off the chair. Her screams almost pierced my eardrums. "Do you know what it feels like to be pushed into an abyss? What did I do wrong?" "Why, just when my life was getting better. Do you want to drag me down?" "On what right?" I yelled and hit her uncontrollably. All the pent-up frustration of nearly 10 years exploded. Sleepless nights, scars on my hands, those times I stood on the rooftop wanting to jump. It all turned into a choked, blood-soaked scream. "Enough!" Feng Shuo rushed forward and hugged me tightly from behind. He squeezed me close, his voice hoarse and trembling. "Ding ding, that's enough. No need to apologize anymore. Let's go home." That tone was so familiarly gentle, just like the countless nights he'd held me and comforted me after nightmares. But this time, I only felt nauseated. I yanked myself free from his embrace and slapped him hard. Slap. The room fell silent. Feng Shuo's head was knocked to the side. He didn't resist. He just stood there, staring at me with bloodshot eyes. I laughed bitterly. "What are you still pretending to be a good person for?" "Feng Shuo. From beginning to end, you're just one of them." His face turned pale. His lips trembled as if he wanted to say something. But behind him, Meng suddenly lunged forward. She forcefully pushed me. My back slammed straight into the corner of the table. A terrible pain instantly shot straight to my brain. I was in so much pain I collapsed to the ground. It felt like something was being torn apart inside me. Meng held a shard of broken glass, her face contorted with resentment. "Who do you think you are to dare hit me?" I only regret not killing you back then. Do you even deserve my jealousy? My ears buzzed. The sounds of panicked screams from the people around me, Feng Shuo's roar, the sound of shattering glasses. Everything gradually became blurry. I only felt a stream of hot liquid flowing down between my legs, little by little.
Deep red. Someone screamed, "Blood! She's bleeding so much!" Feng Shuo knelt before me. His hands trembled so violently he could barely lift me. Ding ding! His voice broke completely. "Don't fall asleep! Please, don't fall asleep!" I gazed at him drowsily. It was the first time I'd seen this man cry so desperately. His tears fell on my face, burning hot. I parted my lips slightly. My voice was as soft as the wind. "Feng Shuo." He leaned closer. "I'm here. I'm here." "Why?" I looked at him for a long time. "Why did you come to tease me again?" His body suddenly stiffened. I wanted to ask one more question. I wanted to ask you, when you saw me suffering to the point where I wished I were dead, did you ever truly regret it? But I had no strength left. My consciousness gradually faded into the cool darkness. In my final delirium, I heard Feng Shuo's voice, almost insane. "Doctor, save her! I beg you, save her!" When I woke up again, the first thing I saw was the stark white ceiling of the hospital. The faint smell of disinfectant wafted into my nostrils, causing a dull ache in my head. Outside, the sun was already rising, its rays filtering through the thin curtains and casting long, pale streaks on the floor. I stirred slightly. I immediately felt a cold, empty sensation in my lower abdomen. It was as if something that once existed had completely vanished. Feng Shuo was slumped beside my hospital bed. In just a few days, he had visibly lost weight. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot from sleepless nights, and his chin was covered in a stubble of stubble. The man, who was always so clean and tidy, now looked almost completely different. Hearing the sound, he immediately woke up. The moment he saw me open my eyes, his eyes instantly reddened. Ding ding. He hurriedly stood up, wanting to touch me, but stopped midway, as if afraid I would dislike him. Finally, he just gently pulled the blanket over me. "Does it hurt?" His voice was hoarse. "Should I call a doctor?" I looked at him for a few seconds, then softly asked, "Where is the baby?" The air immediately fell silent. Feng Shuo's throat moved slightly. After a long time, he finally lowered his head, his voice trembling almost inaudibly. "We couldn't save it." I was speechless. In that moment, my heart was strangely calm. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Neither did I feel the pain I had imagined. I just felt very tired. So tired that I didn't even have the strength to shed tears. Feng Shuo stood beside the bed, his eyes red and swollen, looking at me. "It's my fault. I didn't protect you and our child well." He covered his eyes with his hand, his shoulders trembling violently. "You deserve to die." I looked at the man in front of me. I remembered the countless times he had carefully noted down my menstrual cycle on his phone. I remembered the nights I couldn't sleep because of my stomach ache, and he stayed up all night holding a hot water bottle for me. I remembered when I had a fever and he almost went crazy dragging me to the hospital in the middle of the night. If it were before, he would absolutely never have let me end up like this. But now, he is the reason I'm lying here. I gently closed my eyes. "Feng Shuo." He immediately leaned closer. "Yes?" I looked at him for a long time before slowly opening my mouth. "Jimeng killed our child." His face instantly turned pale. "I want to report it to the police," I said calmly. Do you have any objections? Feng Shuo shook his head almost without hesitation. No. I hate her so much I can't even express it. You can do whatever you want. I nodded slightly. That's good then. I'm afraid you'll cover for her again. The word cover for her was like a knife stabbing straight into his heart. Feng Shuo's lips trembled. He reached out to grab me, but I dodged him. Anding, his voice was almost pleading. Don't talk to me like that. I didn't answer. I just picked up my phone and called the police. Then I calmly recounted everything, including how Chi Meng had bullied me in high school, including how they used me as a plaything, including how the baby died because of that push. Feng Shuo stood by the bed from beginning to end without stopping me. Even when the police questioned him, he proactively offered the CCTV footage and chat history as evidence. After the police left, I opened my phone again. The trending topic about Chi Meng was still at the top. Only this time, the public opinion had begun to shift. I opened the post editor. I typed it down word by word. I used my real name to recount everything I had experienced, from being bullied in high school, to Feng Shuo approaching me because of a bet, to the baby I just lost. I posted all the screenshots of that group chat online. Every dialogue, every mocking remark, every malicious word. It was like tearing open a wound that had been scabbing over for nearly 10 years, exposing the rotting flesh and blood inside to the sun. After posting, I put down my phone. I felt completely drained of energy. Feng Shuo looked at me for a long time, then asked hoarsely, "Didn't you say you'd handle it? Why did you still post it yourself?" I gave a weak laugh. Because I wanted to say it myself. Not wait for others' pity. Feng Shuo lowered his head in silence. His phone kept ringing incessantly. It was a call from the Feng family. It was news of the plummeting stock prices. It was the media constantly calling. In just one night, the whole thing had completely exploded. Chi Meng's reputation had crumbled. Netizens began digging up the school bullying incident from that year. Many former classmates also came forward to testify on my behalf. Chi Meng's account was so heavily criticized that comments had to be disabled. All the collaborating brands terminated their contracts. The Chi family repeatedly tried to mediate privately with me. I refused them all. Feng Shuo didn't help them either. He even used his connections to force this matter to continue trending on social media. He seemed to have gone mad. As if he wanted to atone for his sins against me in that way. Until the day Xi Meng was sentenced. The news was plastered all over the newspapers. I sat by the hospital window, gazing at the sunlight for a long time. Then I slowly sighed, my decaying youth. Finally, I waited for a belated ray of light. I stayed in the hospital for another half a month to recover from the miscarriage. Feng Shuo was there almost every day. He brought me all sorts of food, from bone broth to seafood porridge, from my favorite pastries to traditional Chinese medicine for nourishing the body. Every time he saw me, he tried to smile, but the weariness and pain in his eyes were impossible to hide. Once, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw him sitting on the balcony smoking. The red flame flickered in the darkness. He bowed his head for a long time. His broad shoulders, which once made me feel safe, now revealed an unprecedented loneliness. I knew he hadn't had an easy time. He'd been insulted by netizens. His family had criticized him. His company's stock had plummeted. His reputation was almost completely ruined. But all of that was for retribution he deserved. On the day of my discharge, I slowly changed my clothes. Feng Shuo stood beside me, watching me anxiously. "Where are you going?" "Home." He immediately breathed a sigh of relief, as if he'd just been saved. "I'll take you home." "No need." The smile on his face froze. I pulled my suitcase towards the door. Suddenly, Feng Shuo grabbed my wrist. "Ding ding." His voice was hoarse. "Please don't leave me. From now on, I'll make it up to you. I'll give you whatever you want. Whichever house you like, we'll move to. I want a dog, a dressing room. I want to go anywhere I want." I really know I was wrong. His tears fell onto my hand, burning hot. I lowered my head and looked at the old watch on his wrist. It was the watch I had saved up half a year's salary to buy him. Back then, his friends even mocked it for being cheap. But he cherished it like a treasure, carefully cleaning it every night. That beautiful memory, which once moved me so much, now seemed both luxurious and ridiculous. I slowly pried his fingers away. "Feng Shuo, I can no longer tell which of your words are true. So, I consider them all false." His face turned pale. I pulled my suitcase and walked out. Behind me, his suppressed, trembling sobs immediately rang out. But this time, I didn't turn around. After I got home, my parents didn't ask me anything. My mother just quietly opened the door to my room, changed the bed sheets, and pulled the curtains shut for me. My father went into the kitchen to cook, the rhythmic sounds of knives and cutting boards echoing in the small, old house, as if everything was normal. No one mentioned Feng Shuo. No one asked about the child. Neither did anyone mention what had happened. They were simply there for me in their own way. In the morning, my mother would knock on the door to wake me up for porridge. In the evening, my father would place peeled fruit beside my bed. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night and heard faint crying coming from the next room. My mother's choked sobs. My father's constant comforting. I lay still in bed, my eyes wide open, staring at the white ceiling, my throat aching. That year, after I was bullied to the point of dropping out of school for a year, they had done the same thing. During the day, she tried to smile and talk in front of me. At night, she would hide away and cry. I don't blame myself for being weak. I only blame myself for discovering it too late. I blame myself for not being good enough to protect my daughter. I tilted my head and looked at the tightly locked window. Even now, there are no sharp knives or scissors left outside in the house. My mother even secretly took down the mirror in my room because she was afraid I would see the scars on my body and start overthinking things. The sunlight outside streamed through the gap in the curtains, burning my face. I closed my eyes. Tears silently streamed down my temples. That was the last time I cried because of the past. After resting for almost 2 months, I started looking for a job. Everything was much more difficult than I thought. The online scandal from that year was too loud. Even though my name had gradually faded, some people still recognized me. Some companies politely rejected me just by hearing my name. Some people looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and pity. I gritted my teeth and continued submitting my applications. Finally, I got a job at a company not far from home. On my first day back at work, My mother secretly slipped a small carton of milk into my bag, just like when I was in middle school. I stood in front of the company door, staring at the carton of milk for a long time before bursting into laughter. It was the first genuine smile in many years. Life gradually returned to normal. I went to work during the day. After work, I ate hot pot with new colleagues, drank bubble tea, and strolled around the city. Occasionally, I took my parents to the supermarket or to the movies on weekends. I started learning to live like a normal person. No more sleepless nights because of nightmares. No more sitting in the bathroom trembling with a knife. The scars in my heart seem to be slowly scabbing over. It's just that sometimes I still feel like someone is silently appearing around me. For example, on rainy days when I forgot my umbrella, a stranger would always give me a new one and quickly leave. For example, difficult customers suddenly became much easier to talk to. Or there was the time my company had a contract problem, and the other party, who had been adamant about not compromising, suddenly agreed to cooperate. I knew who did it. I just didn't want to say it. Until one day, I left work early, and before I even entered the alley, I heard my mother's voice. "Go away!" Her voice trembled violently. "We don't need these things." I stopped in my tracks. Through the gap in the staircase, I saw Feng Shuo standing in front of my house. In just over half a year since we last met, he seemed like a completely different person. Much thinner. A baggy coat hung over him. His chin was covered in unshaven stubble. His once sharp eyes were now sunken and tired. At his feet were piled large and small bags. Traditional Chinese medicine, nutritional supplements, fruit. These were all things he used to prepare for me. My mother stood blocking the doorway, her eyes red with tears. "Please, I beg you," she pleaded. "Don't ever show your face in front of her again. Do you know how we lived those years?" Her voice choked with emotion. My wife and I take turns guarding her room door at night. I'm afraid that when she wakes up, our daughter will be gone. Feng Shuo. My mother burst into tears. What did our daughter do wrong? How could you trample on her like that? I stood at the bottom of the stairs, my whole body stiff. Feng Shuo bowed his head very low. His shoulders trembled violently. I'm sorry. His voice was hoarse, almost breaking. It's all my fault. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. My mother turned away to wipe her tears. Then don't come again. Just have mercy on her one time. The silence was suffocating. After a long while, Feng Shuo slowly turned around. The moment he saw me, he froze instantly. His eyes turned red almost instantly. Ding ding. He softly called my name, but didn't dare approach. I looked at him for a long time, then said softly, Let's go outside and talk. Feng Shuo froze for a few seconds before quickly nodding. He followed me downstairs. From beginning to end, he kept a distance of about a meter behind me, as if afraid of making me uncomfortable. We went to a small park near our house. The afternoon sun was setting, and the leaves rustled in the wind. Feng Shuo placed the bag of groceries on a park bench and awkwardly took out each item. This is the traditional Chinese medicine the doctor prescribed for you before. Take it once a day. This is your favorite cake. And there are vitamins for your aunt and uncle. He spoke very slowly. His voice was hoarse. Even a simple sentence had to be broken down into several parts before it was finished. It was as if he was trying to prolong the time he spent with me. Only after taking everything out of his bag did he fall silent, bowing his head. I looked at him and said softly, Don't come here again. Feng Shuo's hand tightened slightly. You really can't forgive me? I didn't answer immediately. A gentle breeze blew through my hair. After a long time, I smiled softly. Feng Shuo, not every apology can earn forgiveness. He lowered his head even further. Tears fell onto the paper bag containing the medicine, staining it with dark streaks. Since I truly fell in love with you, his voice trembled. I've regretted it many times. I wanted to tell you the truth, but I didn't dare. I was afraid of losing you. Day after day dragged on, until it ended like this. He looked up at me. His eyes were red and filled with despair. Ding Ding, I truly love you. I looked at him for a long time. The man who once made me love him so much I forgot myself was now standing before me, weeping uncontrollably. If it were before, just seeing his red eyes would have broken my heart. But now, my heart was surprisingly calm. I said softly, but your love began with deception. So even if it becomes genuine later, it's no longer pure. Feng Shuo's face turned pale. I stood up. Don't come looking for me anymore, and don't secretly help me. People must look forward. That's what he said to me before. Now I'm returning it to him. Feng Shuo bowed his head then chuckled. His laughter was hoarse, like crying. After a long time, he said in a low voice, If Chi Meng gets out of prison later, I'll keep an eye on her. I won't let her bother you anymore. I nodded and turned to leave. This time, he didn't try to stop me. After that incident, Feng Shuo truly never appeared before me again. However, I occasionally overheard news about him from others. It was said that the Feng and Qi families had completely fallen out over the events of that year. They tore each other apart, resulting in heavy losses for both sides. The Qi family, which had relied heavily on their relationship with the Feng family for business expansion, suffered a dramatic decline in reputation after Qi Meng's scandal. Shareholders withdrew their capital one after another, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy. The Feng family, while not completely ruined, also lost its former glory. Once, I happened to see an economic news article. In the photo, Feng Shuo was wearing a black suit, standing among reporters. In just over a year, he had lost a lot of weight, his eyes cold and tired. He no longer had the lazy, carefree demeanor he once had. I glanced at it and calmly turned off my phone. It was like watching a stranger's story. A few years later, Qi Meng was released from prison. By then, I had been promoted and moved to a new, more spacious apartment near the city center. My busy life left me with little time to reminisce about the past. It wasn't until one weekend, while taking my parents out to eat at a shopping mall, that I saw Qi Meng again. She was standing in front of a restaurant, handing out flyers advertising their dishes. She was wearing a cheap red employee uniform. She wasn't wearing any makeup. Her cheeks were sunken. There was none of the radiant arrogance of the young lady she once was. The moment she saw me, she froze. The flyer in her hand fell to the ground. Her expression instantly became extremely unpleasant, as if someone had stripped away the last remaining layer of skin she had. The manager standing nearby frowned and shouted, "What are you standing there for? Go hand out more." Qi Meng bit her lip and lowered her head. At that moment, I suddenly remembered the girl from years ago who always held her chin high in the crowd, looking down on me with contempt. Now, finally, life has dragged me down into the mud. But strangely, I no longer feel any sense of satisfaction. Just a bland feeling, like looking at a completely rotten memory. I averted my gaze and walked into the restaurant with my parents. I didn't say a word to her from beginning to end. Those who once hurt me so much I couldn't live. Finally, they became strangers, no longer relevant to my life. Later, my work became increasingly successful. I made many new friends. On weekends, we would go camping, hiking, or on short trips together. Occasionally, my mother would secretly urge me to find a new boyfriend. I just laughed it off. I no longer resisted love as before. It's just that I no longer easily trusted anyone. One time, after finishing work late, I stood in the parking lot watching the heavy rain outside and suddenly remembered Fong Sok. Before, whenever it rained, he would always be the one waiting for me outside the company with an umbrella. Afraid I'd be cold, he'd even prepare a hot towel and ginger tea. He had genuinely cared for me like that. And he had also genuinely hurt me so deeply. People are so strange. Sometimes, love and destruction can coexist in one person. I stood still for a few seconds, then chuckled to myself. Then I opened my umbrella and stepped into the rain. From beginning to end, I never looked back. On the day I moved out of my old apartment, I accidentally discovered a photo album stuck deep in the corner of the cupboard. A thin layer of dust covered the outside. I slowly opened it. The first page was a picture of me giving a speech as the freshman representative. My eyes shone brightly. A vibrant smile played on her lips. The following pages contained photos of me laughing with my roommate, photos of me dozing off in the library, photo of me holding a cup of bubble tea in the stadium. All were candid shots. I silently flipped through the pages. Then I discovered that, at some point, photos of me and Fong Sok had appeared in the album. There was one of me sitting behind him on a tram, hugging his waist and smiling broadly. There was another of him carrying me on his back in the snow. There was one of me dozing off on the sofa while he turned to look at me and smiled softly. Each photograph. His gaze upon me was so gentle it was heartbreaking. The wind from the window rustled the pages. I turned to the last page. Inside was a slightly yellowed piece of paper. It was Feng Shuo's handwriting. My dearest Ding Ding, by the time you see this letter, we'll probably be married, won't we? Perhaps you are lying beside me, drooling. I've always felt like a scoundrel, because from the beginning, my intentions towards you weren't pure enough. But I truly love you. I love you so much that I've wanted to kneel down and beg for your forgiveness many times. If you ever find out, I hope you love me enough to soften your heart once more. I will spend the rest of my life making amends to you. So, don't leave me alone. The ink at the end was slightly smudged. I don't know if it was because of the water or because I wrote too hastily. I stood silently for a long time. Outside, the afternoon sun streamed onto the balcony. The air was faintly scented with the magnolia blossoms my mother had bought this morning. After a long while, I gently folded the letter and put it back in its place. Feng Shuo probably really did love me. It's just a pity love came too late. And once a person has been hurt to the core, they no longer have the courage to take another gamble. Some things go wrong from the very first step. Then every subsequent step leads to a bottomless abyss. I held the album in front of the trash can for a long time. Finally, I slowly let go. The album fell to the bottom of the bin with a very soft sound. Like that painful chapter of my youth finally being completely closed. Ding ding, are you finished? My mother's voice echoed from the doorway. I blinked, took a deep breath, and pulled my suitcase to my feet. I'm ready. I stepped out of my old room. My father was waiting for me downstairs. The bright early summer sun bathed the small street. A gentle breeze blew through the trees along the roadside, carrying the scent of flowers. I looked up at the deep blue sky in the distance and smiled softly. Spring has finally arrived. From now on, I won't have to wait for clear skies anymore. A few years later, my life was completely stable. I switched to a better job, earning enough to take my parents on a few trips each year. My new apartment was on a high floor, with a balcony full of greenery and magnolias. Every morning, I'd pull back the curtains and sunlight would flood the living room. Sometimes, looking at that scene, I still remember my dream from back then. A small house, someone waiting for me after work, a hot meal, a child running around in the living room. I once thought I would have it all with Phong Sok. But in the end, I achieved the life I wanted on my own. The only difference was that he wasn't by my side anymore. My mother was still worried about my marriage. Once, while we were eating, she suddenly asked, "Are you really not going to fall in love again?" I laughed and put some food on her plate. It's not that I don't want to. I just wanted to take it slow. My mother looked at me for a long time, then sighed softly. She knew I hadn't completely moved on from the wounds of that year. Some wounds, though seemingly healed, were actually just no longer bleeding. One late autumn day, my company held a celebratory party at a hotel. After it ended, I went down to the lobby to get my car and accidentally saw a familiar figure standing outside the window. It was Feng Shuo. It had been almost 3 years since we last saw each other. He was wearing a simple black coat, much thinner than before. He held an umbrella, and a few raindrops clung to his shoulder. The moment he saw me, his eyes trembled slightly, like someone who had been lost in darkness for too long and finally found the light. But he didn't approach. He just stood a few meters away, looking at me. I silently looked back at him. The cold autumn wind blew through the window pane, carrying golden leaves that fluttered down onto the rain-soaked pavement. After a long pause, he asked in a hoarse voice, "How have you been lately?" I nodded. "Very good." He chuckled softly. His lips curved upwards, but his eyes were red and swollen. "That's good then. I've always been afraid you weren't happy." I didn't know what to say. Actually, seeing him now, the pain in my heart wasn't as intense as before. Only a faint regret remained, like recalling an old dream that had long since passed. Feng Shuo lowered his head in silence for a few seconds, then took a small box from his jacket pocket. It was the watch I had given him all those years ago. The watch face was very worn, but it was still clean. He said softly, "I've kept it until now. I once thought, if one day you agreed to see me again, I would return it." I looked at the watch for a long time, then shook my head. "Keep it. After all, it was something I sincerely wanted to give you." Feng Shuo's hand tightened slightly. He looked at me for a long time, as if wanting to engrave my current appearance into his memory. Then he suddenly smiled. "And Ding, I once thought that if I tried hard enough to make amends, you would come back someday. But later I understood. There are things that can't be fixed just because you know you're wrong." Outside, the rain was getting heavier. The raindrops pattered on the ground, Feng Shuo slowly opened his umbrella and took a step back. This time, I really won't bother you anymore. He paused for a few seconds, then softly said, You must live happily. I looked at him. The man who had once been the most radiant figure in my youth now stood in the cold rain, his eyes tender yet heartbreaking. Finally, I softly replied, Me too. Feng Shuo was stunned for a few seconds. Then he laughed. Tears silently fell from the corners of his eyes again. He turned and walked into the rain. His tall figure gradually disappeared amidst the crowd and city lights. This time, I knew we were truly over. No more resentment, no more entanglement, and no more waiting. I stood under the eaves, watching the rain for a long time before turning and leaving. My phone in my pocket vibrated. It was my mother, texting to ask if I was finished work yet. She'd left some hot soup for me in the kitchen. I chuckled and replied, I'm coming home right away. Outside, cars stretched endlessly under the warm yellow streetlights. I pulled my coat tighter and walked forward. The road ahead was still very long, but this time, I'm going to live only for myself.